Hi, good evening. We will continue with the topics. We will now talk about advertising pre-testing. Just to recap what we've done so far, we have talked about some theoretical concepts, and then we started studying the various applications of market research. We studied brand health, and we studied advertising. We studied customer satisfaction last week. So now we'll go on to advertising pre-testing. Pre-testing is a very specific word. It means researching about an advertising before the company airs the ad. Right? So let's go forward. Why do we pre-test an advertising? An ad, a TV ad, done with a very high quality model, for example, or maybe very expensive celebrities. But ordinarily expensive celebrities will cost about rupees 50 lakhs or 60 lakhs to produce. That's the cost of shooting an ad. A good ad, a good quality. Could even be a 1 crore if you have kind of locales and scenes and so forth. But when we talk about expenditure on media, when they release the ad on television or newspaper or OTT, budgets for a company could go up to 5 crores, and 5 crores is considered small. 15, 20, 50, 100 crores. Of course, big multinational firms like Levers and ITC spend several hundred crores every year on advertising across all their brands. Now, before putting that kind of media expenditure behind a brand, behind an ad, you need to make sure that the ad will do the job. So there's no point in spending that kind of money and then discovering that the ad is not a good ad. The ad is not really good enough. And therefore, to reduce the risk of that happening, professional companies pre-test the ads before they air it on media. So, an ad pre-test allows us to study whether the ad is likely to do a good job, right? And finally, it has to tell us, after doing an ad pre-test, it will tell us if the ad is ready to be aired as it is, which means it is a go, or it needs to be junked, dropped altogether, in which case it is a no-go. Or some modification, this has to be changed, it has to be made shorter, or use some other character, or change the dialogue a little bit, change this particular word a little bit, so on and so forth. So it needs some modification before adding, and ideally the pre-test should tell us what those modifications needed are, right? So this is why a pre-test is needed, to reduce the risk of spending media money behind a bad ad. And what should a pre-test tell us? It should tell us whether the ad is good to go, or whether the ad needs to be dropped completely, or is good to go but with some modifications, right? Right. So about ad pre-testing, we can do pre-testing for TV ads, we can do it for radio ads, we can do it for press, we can do it for outdoor, we can of course do it for OTT. And as I mentioned a few times, I'm not seeing OTT very differently from TV, right? It is just that whether it is an audio-visual ad that either comes on the laptop or on the mobile or on the TV screen. So basically an AV ad. It can be done for a social media ad, for example. It can be done for any kind of ads. However, primarily, pre-testing is done in the context of TV ads. Why? Because in general, TV has the biggest media budgets. TV advertising campaigns are significantly more expensive, and there's no comparison between the cost of a television ad campaign and the cost of a radio ad campaign. There is no comparison between the cost of a television ad campaign and an outdoor ad campaign. Press is relatively expensive compared to radio and outdoor, but even that's not as expensive as TV is, unless we're using a very small channel, in a very small regional market. But in general, TV spends are higher than the other media, and therefore pre-testing is normally done for TV ads. That's only this, because the money involved is more, therefore the risk involved is higher. Now, strictly speaking, ads can be pre-tested in any of the following forms. One is a storyboard. It's like we all did comics in the old age, right? So there will be, this will be the storyboard. This is frame 1, where there's a person standing and talking, and to another person, and they're saying something. And frame 2, this person is getting inside, a bus, and they're going somewhere, right? And then this is frame 3. So clearly it will say bus stand because of the bus stop sign. Frame 3, they'll end up going to the office. And then frame 4, they'll be working on the the laptop, etc., etc., etc. All these things will be there like a comic story, and there'll be people and bubbles will be there to indicate what they speak in the dialogue, so on and so forth. So it is storyboard. It is a story which is being shown through a series of stills, pictures, drawings, right? One level higher is animatics. The same kind of images, but it will play like a video. Tuck, 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 it will play. And there could be a voiceover which is saying, Anil is going to office and he's telling his friend Sunil that he is late for the day. So he goes to the bus stand and he waits for the bus and he gets inside the bus. So there'll be a voice which will be narrating the story. So this animatic, it can also be called as a narratic. And then there is a finished commercial, and we are going to be talking here mainly about the finished commercial pre-testing, meaning the full shooting has happened, right? So this is like a proper ad that we see on TV, except that we are seeing it before the ad is aired. It's being researched before the ad is aired. Okay, so far, shall I go ahead? Right. So, how do you do ad pre-testing? What do you measure in ad pre-testing? It follows the logic of how advertising works, right? And how does an ad work? For an ad to work, it first has to get noticed, right? People have to stop what they're doing, or if they're watching TV and a series of ads appearing and they are switched off completely, saying there are so many ads, but this ad has to grab their attention. So it has to first get noticed. And this is not easy because there's a lot of clutter on media. The technical term, and you need to use the technical term, is clutter. Right? And this clutter is not only from competing ads in the same category, but there's so many ads across so many categories. You're watching a TV program, there'll be an ad for an insurance firm, there'll be an ad for a soft drink, there'll be an ad for a biscuit, there'll be an ad for a mobile, right, etc., 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 etc. So there'll be an ad for so many other categories. So there's a lot of clutter. So the ad has to get noticed. In other words, it has to cut through the clutter. Okay. So having got noticed, so people must say, hey, there's something here. Let me see what this is. That's the first stage, get noticed. Having got noticed, the ad must register the name of the brand in the consumer's mind. This is not something to be taken for granted. Very often it happens that you see a nice ad on TV and you're like, a nice ad with a small boy, very cute. He takes a boat and he goes to the bank. This happens, that happens. But I don't know what brand it is for. I think it's some bank brand, but I don't know more specifically than that. Or I think it is some soft drink brand, but I don't know more specifically than that. That happens very often, which is because the brand registration is poor. Right? I'm sure we can all think of ads which have had an impact on us. Right? So a consumer can recall a nice ad. They can play back the story almost frame by frame, but unable to recall the ad. No, there's a danger when the creative is particularly strong. When the creative is very strong, sometimes the consumer can fail to register the brand name. So they notice the creative, they like the creative, they can play back the creative, but they have not registered the brand name, which means the net effect for the brand of the ad is zero. Right? I'll give you one example, my own personal example of an ad for this. Some years ago, there was an ad, many years ago, 15 years ago, maybe when Sachin, or 20 years ago, when Sachin Tendulkar was still playing. There was an ad where Tendulkar gets in an elevator in a big hotel. You know, in the first couple of seconds, you know there's a big hotel and Tendulkar is getting an elevator. It's just formally like it's for an occasion kind of thing. And along with him in the elevator is a guy bearing a tray of a soft drink. You know, he's standing there with a tray in his hand like this. Soft drink is here on the tray. And there is, I think it is Shah Rukh Khan and I think it is Kareena Kapoor. So they're also there. And nobody's talking, they're just going in the lift. And suddenly the electricity goes off in the elevator. And when the electricity comes back on, the glass is empty. The soft drink glass is empty. We can hear somebody drinking some soft drink when the light goes off. When the light comes back on, we see that the glass is empty. Now Sachin looks guilty, which means we know that it is going to be Sachin. But basically, Sachin has taken a chance because he's there, Shah Rukh is there, Kareena Kapoor is there. He is assuming that the waiter will not know which of them has actually drunk the glass, and therefore he has taken a chance thinking he'll escape with it. At that point, the elevator stops, the doors open, and two people come out and catch Shah Rukh and tilt him to the side and carry him out. And they do the same with Kareena Kapoor. So they're not really human beings. They're they're those dolls that you see in shops, mannequins, right? They're mannequins. And since they have, so they just carry them out, which means the guilty party is very obvious. It's only Sachin who's a human being there apart from the waiter. So Sachin must be the guilty party. This is a very funny ad. I'm telling you this in a long way. The entire ad is compressed into 30 seconds, right? It's obviously a very interesting ad. I know it's for a soft drink, but I can never recall which brand it is for, which means it's just a nice story for me. From the point of view of effectiveness, for the brand's point of view, this campaign was not very effective, right? Let's go forward. So having got noticed and registered the brand name, the ad must clearly convey the message or the product benefit. Consumers buy benefits. So the job of the ad is to tell the consumer what is the benefit that they will get by buying this particular brand, right? So merely registering the brand name itself has some positive impact, but the ad is more effective when it conveys the message clearly. And the impact is maximized when the message is good. That is, what the ad says is effective, is attractive to the consumer, and the creative route is good. How the ad conveys. So there are various options open for creative routes. You can have humor. Like in the example I just gave, it had humor. You can have celebrity. You can have nostalgia. We can have cuteness in the form of kids or pets, and so on and so forth. There are so many creative routes possible. It has to be intelligently used in such a way that the brand benefits, right? Okay, so far? So as to get noticed, has to register the brand name, has to clearly convey the product benefit. That benefit has to be useful to the consumer, and the ad must be conveying the benefit in a effective and interesting and entertaining fashion. Right, so far? We'll go ahead. Okay. Therefore, based on the theory, what did we measure? Broadly, we try to find out the following. Is the ad likely to cut through the clutter and get noticed? Will the ad register the brand name? Will it convey the benefit clearly? Will the way it conveys the message be effective? Will it create a positive disposition? That is, will it create a feeling in the consumer's mind that they must go and buy this brand? Will it create the desired image for the brand? As in, will it create a position for the correct position for the brand that, it is meant for middle class people, or it is meant for rich people, or it is meant for people who are taste conscious, or people who are meant for health conscious, and so on and so forth. Right? Shall we go forward? So to expand on this list of measures, what do we measure an ad pretest? 1. Does it cut through? 2. Does it register the brand name? 3. Do people like the ad? 4. How do they evaluate the ad, or do they find it entertaining? Does it create empathy? What is empathy? I can see myself in the situation. That's empathy. Use of appropriate props like celebrity, storyline, kids, etc. Smoothness and production value, as in it's a good, well-produced ad. It adds message on relevance, it adds message on uniqueness, it adds message on credibility. What's relevance? It is something the consumer is looking for. What is uniqueness? It is different from what other brands are offering. What is credibility? I believe that it's possible. I don't think it's too fantastic or too much of an offer. And overall persuasive ability. Does it make the consumer feel like trying? We ask the question, does it make you feel like trying this brand? Does it make you feel like buying this brand? Right? So these are the 10 or 11 measures. And therefore, these are 10 or 11 key questions that we ask in an advertising pretest. Okay, so far? Can we now go and look at some specific situations here? So, how does the research process work? Now, these days, you can just do it on, as I keep saying, as I said several times, these days we can just do it on video calls and share screen. But the traditional method is to hire a venue, right? And in that venue there will be a table and there will be television kept on it, and there will be a few people who sit there. So people are asked to come and they're asked to see what is there on TV. Now, what is shown on the TV? It is like a typical TV program. First, there is a movie song. Then there is an ad capsule, ad 1, ad 2, ad 3, ad 4, ad 5, ad 6, etc. Then there is one more song. And our ad is one of the ads. Typically, more often than not, it's kept in the middle. But there are other ads which are currently being aired on TV. This capsule should be as realistic as possible. Which means it should have some 10-second ads, some 20-second ads, some 30-second ads. It should have some English ads, some Hindi ads, which is what when you watch TV, some English ads come, some TV ads come, some longer ads come, some shorter ads comes. Some ads come for the same category, some ads come for other categories. It's a mix of different categories, right? It should be as realistic as possible. Okay? And as far as possible, our ad should be in the middle, right? So, so the research process starts a step before people are brought to the room. It starts on the field. So the respondents are identified and recruited. So let's say the sample size is, just for example, 200. You take about 5 locations different in the city, spread it out a little bit, and per location you take about 40 people. So 40 into 5, you have 200, right? And they normally live, those 40 are within 5 kilometers of the venue. So there are 5 different venues, right? So you have people from different localities, so you get a spread of opinion as well, right? Okay, so far? So at the time of recruiting the respondent, there's something called a recruitment questionnaire. It's nothing but the same question that we have seen, except that this has questions only about what is your age group, what is your income group, what's your socioeconomic class, what kind of products you use at home. It is used to determine eligibility. So it's very similar to a screening questionnaire. In fact, it is the same as a screening questionnaire. But the difference is, in a screening questionnaire, you do the screening and then go to the main questionnaire fairly quickly. Whereas in a recruitment questionnaire, you do it, you take the respondent to the main venue and then do the main questionnaire. That's the only difference. But for all practical purposes, they're the same otherwise. Right? Now, when talking to the respondent and recruiting him, we cannot tell him that the studies were an ad test. Because if we tell him or her, then they'll watch the ad with extra concentration and they will, the recall element will be biased. So you have to tell them we are just calling you for a TV program kind of discussion. And of course, we won't tell them what category is for, because if we tell them that, again, they'll be watching with extra attention and our data will become biased. So the recruitment questionnaire will basically ascertain if the respondent is the right profile. And then they come to this thing called the FET. Now, this is a key market research terms. Forced exposure test. This term is used in the context of advertising pre-testing. This FET is used only in the context of advertising pre-testing. We are forcing an exposure to the ad by bringing them to a certain venue, and therefore it's called forced exposure test, FET, right? And so we bring them to the venue in batches of 8 or 10 at a time. Okay, so first, shall we go forward? Right. Now, as I said, there's a TV kept in room, and they're made to sit in front of the TV, and then the TV plays the first song, then it plays 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 ads, and then the second song is also placed, right? So the capsule typically contains 2 movie songs and a set of ads, okay? Or 2 movie songs in the beginning and 2 more later, or 1 movie song. I mean, that varies from person to person. And at the end of this viewing, the respondents are taken to another room and they're interviewed individually. And they're asked questions about top of mind recall, which ads have you seen, unaided recall. Then are there any ads for which you remember the story, but you don't remember the brand name? And then we show the list of ads and we say, do you remember seeing this ad? So you've seen this before, you've seen this process before. The same process happened for brand health research. Unaided top of mind recall, unaided recall, aided recall, that's for brand. This is for the ads that they have just seen, top of mind ad recall, unaided ad recall. And then there's a question in between which is there any ad that you remember the story but you don't remember the brand name? If so, please tell us the story. And then there is aided ad recall. After this, what happens is they are brought back to the TV viewing room and now they're shown the test ad. Only the test ad. They're shown only the test ad. This is called soulless exposure, solo, right? The TV program is not there, the other ads are not there. Just a test ad is shown, maybe 2 times it is shown, maybe even 3 times. So now you're forcing them to see this ad. Earlier, you showed it to them in a group and you asked them whether they noticed it. Now you're forcing them to see it properly by showing them only this ad. That's why it's called FET. Right? So after the soulless exposure, they're once again interviewed, once again individually, right? And we have questions on, do they understand what is the benefit that is coming from the brand? What is it that they like or dislike about the ad? Is the benefit that they're talking about relevant to them? Is it unique? Is it credible? Is the ad is it entertaining? And what about, do they like the celebrity? Do they like the music, etc., etc., etc.? Right? Based on if it is a celebrity ad, or if it is a music-based ad, or if it is a children-based ad. If it is a children-based ad, you may have questions like, did you find it very, cute and cuddly and those kind of things. Right? So these are the measures in an ad pre-test. Initially, we show it to them in a group, in a clutter. We find out to what extent the ad is noticeable. Then we force them to see it only by itself, without the other ads. And we ask specific questions on likability, Do they find the message relevant and unique, etc.? And do they find the ad entertaining? Do they feel like seeing it again? And of course, as we said earlier, persuasiveness. Do they feel like going and buying this product? Right? Okay, so far? Right. There are some specific questions that need to be addressed in the context of FET. How many ads should be there in the ad capsule? Where should our test ad be? Should it be the first or last or middle or somewhere else? What should be the length of the ads? What language should those ads be in? Should there be, if our ad is an ad for a soap, should there be another soap ad? Yes or no? How do we select those other ads, right? So there are some common sense guidelines for each of these questions. There are no hard and fast rules. Different research companies have different guidelines. We'll just talk about a few common sense guidelines for these things. So how many ads should be there in a typical TV telecast? It varies from 5 or 6 or 12. So 8 to 12 is a good number. 10 is a fairly good number, right? So just go with 10 or 8. Max 12, not more than that. Why should our test ad be? Doesn't matter. If we do 20 ad pre-tests in a year, and in every ad pre-test we put the test ad in the second position, then we should continue that practice. We should not change it. Whether it is in the 5th position is better or 10th position is better, there's no such logic. What is important is that you keep putting in the same position so that you can compare the results across studies over a period of time. Having said that, if you don't have prior experience, most researchers prefer it in the middle position. So if it is 10 ads, they will put in the 5th or the 6th position. Alright, we'll go forward. So what should be the length of the ads in the capsule? I already answered this. It should be as realistic as possible to a actual ad capsule that comes on TV. Therefore, it should be a mix. Some 40 seconds, some 30 seconds, some 20 seconds, right? And the test ad should also be of about 30 or 40 seconds normally. That's a better option, right? What happens is companies make ads which are about 1 minute at the time of shooting, and then they create 30-second edits. They call them edits. So it is better to test a suitable 30 or 40-second edit than the full commercial, especially the full commercial is even longer than 1 minute, because that is what the typical TV ad capsule is like. What language should the ads be in? Again, the same criteria, realistic, and therefore a mix. It's an easily answered question. But if it is a very regional brand with plan to be aired only in regional channels, then maybe all that can be regional language. But if it is going to be national, it's better to have a mix. Right? Okay, so far? Shall we go forward? Should there be a competitor ad or not? This is an interesting one. But on the whole, the answer is preferably yes, because we can then compare to see whether the ad gets confused with the competing brand. So it's good. On the whole, it is probably good to have the competitor ad as well. And which competitor? It should be one of the market leaders. So if your ad is for a soft drink brand, it's good to have Coke or Pepsi, ad also on the same capsule. And how do we select ads? So again, go with the realistic criteria. Mix of brands, mix of products. Right? So just select ads that appear often on TV. Nothing else. Just go. Don't go with rare ads and all. Fill the ads that appear most often. Are we okay so far? Should we go forward? So in this particular situation, we are going to see a sample questionnaire for. The study was done in one major metro in the country. Let us just say it is Chennai or Bombay or Delhi or something. The study was done through the FAT, just to denote beyond chance of forgetting, forced exposure test. Sample size of 200. Here the spread across 4 locations. In the theory I said 5, 4, 5, 6 doesn't matter so much. It's a 50-50 breakup between men and women, right? And